This is Talk Business and Politics with Roby Brock.
And welcome to the program. I'm Roby Brock. We are glad to have you with us. It is the week of American independence, but our globe-trotting governor has been all over the world, maybe spreading a little American ingenuity everywhere. Good to have Governor Asa Hutchinson with us. Thank you for being here.
Great to be with you, Roby.
Let's talk about, in this first block of the show, let's talk about your trade trip to Europe and to the Middle East. I want to begin with France. You had said when you were going to the air show in France, you wanted to learn a little bit more about Dassault Falcon's job cuts that they've announced worldwide and how that might impact Arkansas. What did you find out?
Well, in that economy where you're selling jets for business, you know, it can go up and down. And so they are very committed to Arkansas. They had a small reduction in the workforce, but it's still one of the largest employers. It's still very robust. And you know, we wanted to make sure that everything we are doing as a state can support them, which we are. We expect there to be future opportunities there. So I think everything is very good with Dassault Falcon Jet, even though it emphasizes the need to keep the economy going strong, because if the economy is not going strong, then people aren't buying business jets across the globe. And it's not just a U.S. issue, it's a global issue, because they come from everywhere to buy them here in Little Rock.
Right. Other things in the aerospace sector that you saw that were encouraging at the air show?
Absolutely. I mean, first of all, they're very upbeat because of the defense budget under President Trump, but also Congress. It should be a beefed up defense budget, which means that there's going to be investment in aero defense, and the contractors, money will flow there, which is helpful for us in Arkansas. A lot of people don't realize that we've got Aerojet Rocketdyne. We make missiles in Camden, Arkansas. We've got Lockheed Martin, of course, Raytheon. So some key defense contractors are here in Arkansas, and they're very upbeat about it. And not just because of U.S. sales, but because of President Trump to the Middle East. Saudi Arabia had opened up a significant number of sales that had been prohibited before of defense items to our allies overseas. And so it's a good market there. I hope that we have some opportunities to expand that here in Arkansas.
Do you see a JLTV type project in the potential future for Arkansas, something that might be super project magnitude from some of this defense contractor stuff?
No, I don't necessarily see that on the horizon. I think that was one opportunity that Lockheed Martin didn't get that contract, but because they invested in the facility in Camden, they're always looking for ways to utilize that facility, and they have expanded their operations there. So I think there is opportunities for expansion, but probably not one of those super projects that we looked at before.
All right, well, that's not good, great news, but it is good news what's going on there. You also spent some time in Germany. I think there's about 23 German companies in Arkansas, 1,600 employees. What do you think are the best prospects in terms of German investment in Arkansas? More expansion of what's already here, or new companies coming?
Well, hopefully there'll be a combination of both, but the primary purpose was to market in Frankfurt, for example, their financial center of the world, of the European Union, that we market Arkansas because they're the ones that invest in major companies that are looking for the U.S. market. For example, SMS Group we met with there, which supports the steel industry that's so critical to us. And SMS Group is in Germany. They have 70 employees that support the services to the steel industry in Mississippi County and Arkansas. We hope there's opportunities for future expansion there. The steel industry is still very robust, and I hope for announcements in the future in that regard.
You also spent some time in Israel, your first trip there for business necessarily, and that had more of a cybersecurity, technology, and a defense kind of sector component to that. Tell me a little bit about what you were trying to accomplish there.
Well, in Israel, they are incredibly looking forward on technology. I know that Walmart has been engaged there and looking at some of their technologies. I talked to Doug Millett about that. But we looked at, first of all, their cybersecurity connections. We had incredible meetings there. They like what we are doing in Arkansas in terms of computer science and technology education. It fits in well with a cybersecurity front there. And the Israeli companies are doing business in the United States as well, and so they look at our market just like we look at their market. So I think there's some opportunities there. We're laying the groundwork. We are marketing Arkansas. The other great connection was in the firearms industry that has a U.S. presence from an Israeli company, and obviously with what we have with Sig Sauer, with Remington, with Wilson's and Nighthawk up in northwest Arkansas, we've got a great opportunity for expansion there. This is all laying the groundwork in some of these calls that we're making that we'll follow up with.
When you say laying the groundwork, are you talking about you think you will see some fairly recent developments in that? I mean, during your term as governor, are you laying a foundation for something even beyond if you were to be reelected a second term?
Oh no, I certainly would hope there would be a quicker return than the long term. I think that hopefully in the future, while I'm still governor, you're going to see some results, and I feel confident of that from these trips. I want to add also, though, that what impressed me about going to Europe and Israel is they all look at the United States and the importance of our leadership, both militarily, economically, and freedom-wise, and they really, really yearn for a continued U.S. role in European affairs and leadership across the globe. And obviously we want them to contribute more, but it was just very striking as to they don't want America to recede. They want America to lead, and you can't help but understand that.
Yeah. All right, last question for you on the foreign affairs front here. Where's your next globetrotting trip going to be?
Well, we probably will be looking at China again for this fall, and the reason being I've had 2 trips to China since I've been governor. They've both been very successful. We've got 4 major companies from China that's investing in the United States. We're leading in foreign direct investment, and I want to keep those relationships. I want to make sure that the companies that have committed to Arkansas have all the support that they need. So it's, again, twofold: supporting the investment, looking for future opportunities, but we want to capitalize on that.
All right, we're going to take a commercial break, come back and talk health care with Governor Asa Hutchinson. I'm Roby Brock. We're back right after this. And welcome back to Talk Business and Politics. I'm Roby Brock. We're with Governor Asa Hutchinson. We are going to talk health care in this block of the program here. On Friday, President Donald Trump kind of changed tune a little bit and said that while he has been for repealing and replacing the Affordable Care Act, he said he might be okay if they just repeal it and not replace it. What do you think about that?
I think that's a bad idea. I mean, you look at the turmoil that the healthcare industry is in right now, just with the Senate debate, with what the reform should be in the future, and then if you just simply repeal the Affordable Care Act without a plan for where we go, that creates too much uncertainty, too much turmoil, and also it's not just the healthcare industry, it's about individual citizens that get worked up about this. Yeah. I mean, they're relying upon Medicaid or they're relying upon the subsidy in their health care. And so we want to provide a clear path of reform. We need reform. We need to repeal and replace and reform that Affordable Care Act, but let's don't leave that vacuum there.
Let's talk about some of the concerns that you've raised with the GOP Senate plan that's been out there. You held a press conference on Thursday and talked about this. The biggest kind of headline for me was you think there could be about a $500 million hit to the Arkansas economy. Kind of show me your math on that. Where do you get to that number?
Well, if you just simply look at our expanded Medicaid system in Arkansas, Arkansas Works. That brings about $1 billion into our economy every year. 95% of it right now is funded by the federal government, but it's $1 billion investment. If you end that, then that means that some people will have other avenues of insurance or they will go back, but we'll at least conservatively lose half of that investment in our economy. So that's $500 million each year conservatively would be taken out of the Arkansas economy if Arkansas Works ends, if that federal participation ends. And how you get there also is that part of the Senate plan right now, which we hope will change, is that the 90-95% participation by the federal government is rolled back to 70% for the expanded Medicaid. Well, if that happens, that means Arkansas has got a couple choices. We can either come up with a couple $100 million from general revenues to put into the program to continue it, or we can raise taxes, which we're not going to do, or you can create savings in other parts of the Medicaid budget, and that's not fair to those on traditional Medicaid. And so the result would be we would probably have to end Arkansas Works if that federal commitment is pulled back.
You have also expressed some concern about the potential shift of Medicaid costs to the states. We're hitting around the edges on some of that, but there is also provisions in the bill that would give states some flexibility, but also maybe make it more difficult for you guys to have to pick up a bigger tab. That's a concern of yours as well.
Sure, there's some risk associated with it, and we don't mind taking some risk if they give us the flexibility and the support that we need to manage the programs. We want to save money for the federal government. We want to reduce the liabilities under the Affordable Care Act, but you have to do it by cutting the cost curve, by partnering with the states, and you can't just simply have a shift to the states of all of that responsibility that we're looking at right now. But if there's two parts to the Medicaid program. You have the traditional Medicaid, right, that is largely the elderly, the assisted living facilities, children, aged and disabled. And then you have the expanded population that is really designed for the working poor, if you will, trying to move up the economic ladder. Right now, the Senate plan is to reduce support for both of those. And the traditional Medicaid would go to a per capita cap so that the state would have to assume more risk in a high-risk population that has very high medical needs. And it's limited to the urban index for growth versus the medical index for growth. And of course, that's what we would be assuming as a risk, and you don't want to put that population in the way of having to cut any services.
You have had the ear of Senators Boozman and Cotton. They have kept their powder dry in terms of where they are because this has been a fluid situation in Washington this past week. Do you feel like they are fighting for your position on where you think Medicaid ought to go?
Absolutely. I've been very impressed with both our senators in terms of their responsiveness, willingness to listen, taking the issues that I raise around to their colleagues. And obviously it's very fluid. We don't know where it's going to wind up. And I know we've got to do something. And so I might not get everything I want, but I wanted to raise my voice because it's very important that the people of Arkansas understand where their governor is and that we understand what the cost would be and what's at stake here in this debate. And obviously our senators care deeply about that, and they're trying to resolve some of these issues. What we have right now doesn't work. Let's see what, and the Senate's given their best effort to give us a good path to the future, but I want to be a voice that's engaged in that and not just a silent partner that's saying, whatever you give us, we can live with.
Well, the next time you talk to those two senators, tell them they need to be a little more public in their support of your position on that out front. Would you do that for me? Just for me, not for anybody else.
Just for you. I think they've been very supportive.
I appreciate that. Okay. Also, too, just kind of lastly on this, look into your crystal ball. What do you think plays out after this July 4th recess here? Where they get back to Washington, D.C., do you think that the Republicans finally find some consensus? Do you think it's time to reach across the aisle and look for something a little more bipartisan in support?
Well, I think it's always good to try to build some bipartisan aspect to reform. But it's difficult in these circumstances, and the fact is the Democrats aren't willing to engage in the reform or replace efforts. And so I think you're having to look at the Senate votes and where you can get those among the Republican majority, and that's difficult. I think where the opportunity is that you're creating greater savings than the House bill in the Senate bill, and so you might have to reduce some of those savings in order to not have the great cost shift to the states, to get more support from the different members, and keep some of the conservative aspects to it. But you've got to give us flexibility to the states. You can't abandon that partnership and the federal participation, and we will save money for the future, but you've got to be able to work with the states as we develop
Is
that.
it inevitable that there will be fewer people with insurance as a result of the changes that you think will come out of this Congress?
Well, look at this fundamental point that we don't like the individual mandate because it's mandating you and everybody and every citizen to do what we've never done before, which is to buy insurance. Well, if you take away that individual mandate, then you're giving every citizen a choice as to whether to buy insurance or not. And if you give them the choice, some people are going to say no. So obviously, when you remove a mandate, the likelihood is that you're going to increase the number that will not have insurance, but much of it is of their own making. Now, that's one of the considerations is if you don't have a mandate, maybe we need to have an enhanced penalty there or some consequence or some other leverage to encourage the purchase of insurance. But this is a very, very complicated subject,
Sure.
as
Do
everybody
you think it's
knows.
possible that somebody would not have an insurance choice but would want insurance?
Well, that's what we're really focusing on right now because as you move people off of the Medicaid expansion, which we want to do, where are they going to go? Right now they can go on the exchange and get a healthy subsidy that's sufficient for them to buy the insurance. Now these are people who are at the poverty level. But if they reduce that subsidy or get it in wrong place and configure it in the wrong way that has winners and losers in there, then yes, you're going to have people move off the expansion Medicaid and they will not have a place to go even they would want it. They say it's not affordable. So you've got to have...
That's what you're trying to guard against.
Absolutely, and
Yep.
have a strong enough subsidy to make sure that they have that access.
All right, we're going to take another quick commercial break and we're going to come back and play a little, not really trivia, but I got a couple quick questions for you on some other topics.
We'll
All
try
right.
to be ready.
All right, we're back with Governor Asa Hutchinson right after this. And welcome back to Talk Business and Politics. I'm Roby Brockle with Governor Asa Hutchinson. A couple quick questions for you here. Let's talk about late breaking news kind of towards the end of the week. There is a federal voter fraud commission that President Trump has pulled together. Wants voter rolls and some voter data submitted to them. There have been some states that have refused to do this. Should Arkansas?
Well, I want to look at the letter. I haven't actually received the letter yet, but I've read reports of it. And it looks like they're asking for publicly available voter data information. And so in that sense, well, it's publicly available, why should we resist? But I do have concerns that traditionally voter fraud, voter issues are left to the states, and I think we have a very good voter system in Arkansas, minimal issues there. We've had a good, fair election. So I don't think anyone is excited about creating a federal database, even if it's just simply to review it. So we'll look at the letter, but I have some hesitancy about it.
You made some news late on Friday afternoon, a decision about dicamba, which has been a big agriculture issue in Arkansas. Maybe give a little bit of context for what the controversy has been and what your decision was.
Well, this is one of the most difficult issues for the plant board as well as for anyone who's engaged in it. And the farmers are in a terrible position because you've got a technology that is not functioning or is not being applied the way it's designed, and it's causing a great loss out there. The plant board's recommended a ban on it. I have a lot of confidence in the plant board. They're farmers, they're people that make their livelihood here, that care about it. They make that recommendation. I am going to accept that and refer it over to the legislature that will have to approve it. And it is an urgent matter. The other thing, though, that I asked Director Walker and the Secretary Ward to do is to create a task force to really get a better handle on this, the experts looking ahead to the future, because dicamba technology is being used successfully in other states. There's many farmers that want that technology. It's not working right now the way it should in Arkansas. We've got to figure out why and what the future is.
All right, last topic for you. We're going to get off all the serious stuff here that we've been. I've got a photo that I want to pull up here. It's a photo of you playing basketball in Germany there. First of all, those Air Jordans that you're wearing there, what's your basketball shoe of choice there?
Well, someone tweeted out that I need to modernize my shoe just a little bit, but they're very functional.
We're going to get you some Lonzo Ball shoes. I think that they're like $495 a pair or something
But you
like that.
see the Marine that has barefoot on one and a sock on another.
Yeah, did he play like that?
Someone said I just moved so quick he lost 2 shoes and a sock.
I'm somehow not believing that. The other thing, too, put that picture back up. One more question there. I think that AEDC Executive Director Mike Preston has been doing some heavy lifting for the state of Arkansas on the economic development front, but he's doing it with his arms. Look at those, some big arms right there. He looks like Popeye.
Well, he's a star. He's doing such an incredible job. But this is a way that we can say thanks to the Marines that guard our embassy there. They had fun. We had fun. It was a good break to say thanks.
Were you the leading scorer?
No, I didn't play well.
You didn't play well?
Actually, I played pretty well.
All right. He's Governor Asa Hutchinson. Thank you for globetrotting with us in many ways, not just across there looking for new jobs, but also playing basketball, obviously. So thank you for being with us today. Always a pleasure to sit down with you. Thanks.
Good to be with you.
All right. We are back with more right after this final word from our sponsors.